Hello, everyone. My name is Alfonso Santaniello, and welcome to the Agency Life Podcast, the podcast for marketers by marketers. I sit down and talk to fellow marketers about their stories, the successes, the failures, ups, downs, and everything in between. Our industry is crazy, and so are our stories. Welcome to Agency Life.
Welcome to Agency Life. This is Alfonso Santaniello from the Creative Strategy Agency. And today we have Alison Maloni from Alison May PR. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Alison, this show is really for other marketers to hear our stories and what we've gone through, and hopefully we can help them in some way. So, for those that may not know you, what is your backstory? How did you get in the industry?
Yes, my backstory is very interesting. I was a former journalist, so since I was 9 years old, I wanted to be a reporter. Instead of watching TV shows, I would watch the local news, and I would actually go through the newspaper and write out news stories and sit there at my desk and pretend I was a news anchor. Yeah, I'm kind of a dork. And when I would get in trouble at home, my parents, instead of taking away the phone, they would be like, "You can't watch the news tonight." So that, I guess, shows the type of nerd I was. But I just always loved the news. I loved telling stories. So I went to college for it, got out of college, and then was a producer, an assignment editor, and then I was a reporter. So I was in New York, I was in Springfield, and I went to Providence, Rhode Island. Did that for a while, and anybody who's in the news business can understand this. It's a very difficult industry. You work insane hours. The pay is not that good in the beginning, and you really don't have a life. And I was married and just decided that, you know what, I think I want more of a normal life. So I got out of the business and moved back here, did some sales and marketing, and then went and worked for a marketing firm. Did that for a while and got my experience, and then did some consulting, had some children, and I literally woke up one day and said, I'm going to start my own public relations company. Never thought I was going to own a business, never wanted to, and that was 5 years ago, actually, this month, and here I am.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So what was that trigger for you that was like, you know what, I need to go out and do my own thing?
I have no idea. It's so strange because, everyone has this great story of how they sold lemonade as a kid and they were always an entrepreneur and they always wanted to do this. Like I said, I woke up one day and I said, I'm going to start my PR company. So I went and got one client, I got a website going, and I grew from there. It was very strange, but it was the best thing I could have done.
So you mentioned starting a family, and so for a lot of people out there, not just mothers, fathers, to single working parent, it's a lot. So what has your experience been in the last 5 years of running an agency and having 3 little girls at home that you're running their lives in a sense as well?
It's very difficult. It's definitely not glamorous, and I've had to call in help. I used to think I could do it all. I don't need a babysitter. I thought I could do it all, and I got to a point where I just was overwhelmed. So I had to hire a babysitter, I hired team members, and I let go of some things, and then I actually delegated. For me, when I started my business, it was just me, and I thought that I could do everything. And the more clients I got, I continued to think I could do everything, still myself. But then, and then you realize, no, this is not going to work. So I hired, and I asked for help. I asked friends, family. I'm constantly asking for help. Running a business, it's a 24-hour-a-day job, and it's, vacations are limited, and even when you take a vacation, you're on your phone. So I struggle with the whole work-life balance. I struggle with being able to put my phone away. My kids are home and I have to take conference calls sometimes. They know that's part of the deal, and I hope that I don't mess them up. But they also see how hard I work, and it's actually really rewarding because my middle daughter likes to write blogs. My other daughter wants to start a business, and she actually has. She started a babysitting business. And my little one takes her little pretend laptop and puts it in her bag and says she's going to a meeting. So hopefully...
So being just you've inspired little mini entrepreneurs.
I know. So hopefully I'm making some sort of difference and resonating, with them. But
that work-life balance has always even been hard for me. And I grew up I think I always wanted to eventually start a business. Didn't think I'd start one at 24, needless to say. But I grew up in a small business, in a restaurant. So I worked as a kid all the time. And when I decided I wanted to go to college and not stay in the family business, I was like, I don't want to work all day every day. Like, that's just not what I want to do. Saw my dad go through it. My brothers are there now, or while I was in college going through it. And I was like, no, I don't know. 2008, 8, got laid off, moved back to the area, started the agency a year later. And now I'm probably working more hours on that than I did when, thinking that, I don't want to work 60 hours a week like my parents do, where now I'm working probably 70, 80. And that work-life balance, where it's, do I work on Sunday? So for me, I always take it as that extra hour or two over the weekend, maybe an extra day. It doesn't really affect my balance in a sense, because I can leave Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon if I feel like I need to go do something with my family, which I did this week. I took Tuesday afternoon off after lunch and watched an afternoon movie with my dad and my brother and had dinner with them right after.
That is the great thing, I think, about owning a business. You can do that. And I don't think I could ever go work for someone else just because of that flexibility, especially having kids and family. And you mentioned that we work 60 plus hours a week, but I think when you love it, it's not painful.
Oh, yeah.
When you love what you do, like we do, it's work, but it's not work. And there's definitely days where I'm like, I don't want to do this PR plan, or I just would rather go to the beach, and be with friends. But when you love it, it's not work.
And I remember being at the movie and something would pop in my head, but there's my little mini computer, aka my cell phone, and I'm just like popping ideas in there and still working while I'm technically supposed to be watching a movie. But that's, like you said, it's like, it's not really work. It's like, I have this idea I can use for later. I need to write it down. I don't care what I'm doing at the moment.
Right.
Type of thing. So I think this was maybe a few months ago. I remember seeing something you posted on social media about how someone judged you by your appearance and how... I'll pass it back to you. Why don't you explain to the people listening what happened? Because I think your response and the way you handled everything was just awesome.
Well, so I do these tips of the day. I literally, it's a 10-second video in my car. I started doing it and posting it on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, all the social media platforms. And it's just something super quick and simple. And one day I apparently wore a lower cut shirt and I posted it and I wasn't even paying attention to what I was wearing. And somebody commented saying, well, this must be the only way that you're getting attention is what you're wearing, because people are clearly not paying attention to you and they're just looking at your chest. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that. And then I just graciously responded and just said, I'm sorry that you feel that way. However, I wear what I want to wear and I'm proud of how I look. I work really hard at what I do, and people hire me not because of my chest or my hair or how I look. They hire me because of my brains. Mm-hmm. And I get just as many comments and likes and shares on videos when I'm wearing a turtleneck than when I'm wearing a low-cut shirt. And the people that are going to view it or comment on a low-cut shirt, those aren't my clients. Those aren't my friends. Those aren't even people that I associate with. But whenever you're doing well, people always find a way to criticize. And I always believe that it's somebody who's going to criticize is unhappy in their life. And if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. So
I always say when someone's trying to pull you down, they're already beneath you.
Yes.
So it's, you don't need to get to their level.
Right. And it's funny because somebody said, you probably would have told your client not to respond, not to feed into the trolls. And they're probably right, but a lot of people when they respond, they'll be very negative, and my thought is kill them with kindness.
Yeah.
Somebody commented the other day about how I say you should have a professional photo on LinkedIn, and somebody said, well, this comes from somebody who's taking a video with their phone, and you have a model-like photo on your page, and I said, well, I think I look good and thank you for your concerns. And he actually was in the military, so I said, thank you for your service. And then he turned it all around and said, no, I didn't mean that. But kill them with kindness, because then they're going to just stop.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm just even imagining, and maybe some of the social media pages you manage for your clients and some of the comments that we see. And I've actually had a meeting today with one of my clients where he's like, you know what, I've kind of had enough. Maybe we just need to respond with how they talk to us. And I've been seeing a lot more brands online taking more of a no BS approach. The customer's not always right anymore like it was years ago.
Yeah, me too, because what the people are doing, especially when it comes to restaurants or businesses, they're trying to get a free meal, they're trying to get something.
Yeah.
And, sometimes they aren't always right. And what they say is disrespectful, and you do have to, you have to stand your ground, and you have to, support your staff and stand tough.
Exactly. So what are, outside of this, that one guy with the comment with how you dress in your videos, what do you think has been some of in the 5 years of running your business, or when you're working with that other agency, what has been some of the craziest stories or client situations you've been in and you're like, what the fuck?
Oh my, how many hours do we have?
There's no time limit on this, which is great.
Oh my gosh. I really haven't had like insane stories. We've been fortunate. We haven't had any major crises with clients. It's always been my biggest fear. We always are planning, but you just never know what can happen. I think it was more for me. I got a client on Fox and Friends, and it was their first time on national TV, and we were so excited. And when you go on national TV, the executive producers will prep you. They'll do like a pre-interview, so you're kind of prepared what they're going to talk about. Well, it ended up this segment, they really kind of changed things around, and they threw out all these stats, and he wasn't prepared. He did really well, and I was so proud, but we left, and he was really upset. He wasn't upset at me. He's like, I did awful. This was my first national experience, and I look like an idiot, and I just started to cry in front of him. I was bawling. And I said, I can't believe you think that. You just got national attention. You did amazing. And he didn't think he did well. And so, of course, I'm thinking, like, I failed as a publicist. I wasn't preparing him enough. And that wasn't what he was thinking. And here I am crying in front of a client, something that you just don't ever want to do. So for me, it was kind of an eye-opener that, I take things very personal and that I do, need to hold things back and not get as emotional. I think that's just how I am. But I also know that my clients like that as part of like working with me too, because I am so passionate. But I was so mad at him because I'm like, you did great. Stop,
Yeah, I hear you in that sense of I've gotten a little bit, the walls have come down a little bit with the clients. You don't need to be best friends with clients. Some of them do over time turn into better relationships. But when it comes to, having that connection with the client, and I feel like it makes that working relationship much better because you're not both trying to pretend to say or do something. You're just both fluid and transparent, and it's like, we need to get this shit done. Okay, great, give it to me. Okay, great, we'll get it done. And it's no more like, can you get it done? Can you do it? It's just like, let's go do this.
Yeah, I do have one where my client had asked, he was going to Texas for an event, and he said, one of my coworkers and I were like, oh, we really want to go to Texas. This would be fun. So we said to him, you should do some videos. You should shoot some content. And he said, okay, well, can you guys do that? And we had never shot video in our life. We're like, yes, we can. Yes, we can shoot video. And so he's like, all right, let's book it. So we had about a week to learn how to shoot DSLR cameras and lights and everything. And so we got like a quick tutorial. If he listens to this, he's probably going to kill me. But we learned and we shot video and it came out great. We did need to phone a friend a couple of times when we were down there. But it's that whole like, just say yes and figure it out later.
I was just going to say,
you know, because you have to. If you say no, you're always going to wonder.
And you're going to miss that opportunity that may turn into something much greater.
Yeah.
That's happened to me. It's where it's like you don't want to say no to an opportunity because it could be that, I call them golden tickets. So it may not be the big project, it may not be, but that company or that person there has connections to other companies or other potential clients. And so I have smaller clients, but I call them golden tickets because they've either referred me a shit ton of work that is making me way more than what they have paid me, or have just connected me in the community to other people that I've wanted to be connected to, whether not necessarily just for client base, but just in general. And putting yourself in that circle of, like you were saying earlier, is getting those, not the haters, but just getting those people, the doubters out of your circle and not worrying about the negative side of anything and just keep, going up and positive and ignoring those people.
Yeah.
So in the last 5 years, what do you think has been your greatest achievement since starting your agency?
I think it's getting national press coverage for some of my clients, getting them in Entrepreneur Magazine or on MSNBC. And these are clients, these are small businesses. These are not your, major companies that are used to this. This is a small company in Wisconsin, a small car dealership in Glastonbury, Connecticut. And it's just that great feeling when you come up with a pitch and you all of a sudden hear back and you're calling them and saying, you're going to be in Entrepreneur Magazine, or we're going to Fox and Friends tomorrow, we're going to MSNBC. And to see the look on their face, they're like, what? I'm sorry. And, they just never thought that, they always thought, okay, we'll get local press.
Yeah.
But for me, that's just every time I can get national press, it's just such a high because you're putting them in national spotlight. And probably one of my favorite things is this camp in Virginia that we had donated our PR services to. It's a camp for wounded veterans, Gold Star families, and special needs children. And they opened in June. I had sent the pitch to Fox, and I heard back from Carly Shimkus. She's one of the anchors. She responded to me, and I was like, oh my God, Carly Shimkus just emailed me. And so I'm thinking, okay, we'll go and do a segment. And they said, no, we want to come down and do this. So it was her, a producer, a film crew, and they spent the day with us. And the fact is that they could get this story out about this amazing camp that nobody would have ever known about unless you were like local in Virginia. To me, that was probably my greatest accomplishment. And we donated, we didn't get paid, it was just helping them out, which was amazing.
Yeah, I think there's something. That's awesome. There's a few. I don't want to call it donation because that's pro bono projects that I've been a part of, and I would put them in the passion projects. Like good, they're doing good. They either a nonprofit or whatever. They can't afford it, but I want to help them. And there are always ways, and I think that comes back tenfold. And I don't mean that monetary wise for the business, but I think that just helps get more recognition for you and your company out there, because people talk.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the things where, and I know that we live in a region in Western Massachusetts where it's fairly spread out, but everyone knows everyone. Yeah. Which is good and bad.
Yes.
Could be good and bad,
Yes. You never know who you're going to run into at a bar.
Like each other.
Yes.
Back-to-back nights.
I guess we have good. We have good taste in food.
Exactly.
Both restaurants have amazing food.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think for, everyone, mistakes happen, and most times you're not the first person that's made that mistake. What do you think has been one of the biggest mistakes? And it could be owned agency or working in the other agencies, but what do you think one of the biggest mistakes yourself as a marketer and a publicist, what do you think that you wish that you could take back?
I think it's managing client expectations. When I first started, I never overpromised, but I never really kind of explained exactly what goes into PR. I think a lot of people think, okay, you'll write a pitch and we're going to get picked up. And there's some months that we pitch and research. There's a lot that goes into it, and they don't really understand. And they're paying you this retainer, and then there's 1 or 2 months where they're not getting any press coverage. And you're like, I'm sorry, we're trying, here's what we're doing. So in the marketing world and advertising, you can say, here's your video, here's how many impressions, here's how many people went to your website, and they're seeing that. But with PR, it's really difficult to show. So for me, I never really explained how PR works. I never really explained, listen, you're gonna pay me 1 month and you're not gonna get any press coverage. And then the next month you may get 3 hits. And then also they believe that the second they get press coverage, people are going to be knocking at their door or, calling them immediately. And that's not how that works. A lot of, specifically for B2B, look, if you're a coffee company and you can promise that you can lose 10 pounds and you go on national news, heck yeah, your website's going to blow up.
Yeah.
But when your business, it's all about building that reputation and that brand, image, and it takes time. So I've learned over the years to explain what PR is, what we do, how they're not going to have people knocking on the door, how they can use the PR to leverage, in the sales process. But it definitely, managing client expectations was my biggest. I want to say it wasn't a mistake, but I didn't really spell things out clearly. Because you're afraid. I think when you're new, you just want to please everyone, and you work so hard, and you want to do everything possible. But then you have to be okay to call them and say, look, we tried. We couldn't get it. We're working with one client now, and I thought they would get national press coverage immediately. We got them 1 piece, but after that, we haven't gotten anything, and I'm baffled. And I said to them, I have no idea why. We've revised your pitch. I've had other people look at it, but I don't know why we can't get you national press coverage. And that's hard to call them and say that, because then they're hiring you as the expert and you don't have the answer.
Yeah, I definitely feel as the expectations. For me, when I started, I was the yes man. Whatever they wanted, I would do.
Me too.
And it burns you out.
Yes.
Because then you don't even know what your own value is. And that for me was the biggest thing, was learning. So August will be 10 years for me. And I think the first 2 years of when I started the business, I was still kind of not fully an agency. It was just me. I was 24, working out of my parents' basement. Like it wasn't like an agency.
Yeah.
A couple years later, I got my office at Open Square and moved in there, and that's when things really started to take shape. But it was still, you'd have the smaller clients that was asking for an arm and a leg, and you're like, okay, I'll give you both my legs, sure. But the return on like the longevity of that client never pans out. I feel like.
I feel the same way.
So when you're upfront with the client and saying, okay, well, with your budget, I can do like 8 hours a month, and this is what it means. And I've gotten so much better at that. But before, I was like, yeah, I'll manage your social media. Yeah, sure. Never clarified how many posts, never clarified how, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever your budget. And so, things you learn along the way.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
Yes.
But that expectation and that give and take, I think, is a process. Even if you don't own the agency and you're an account manager or you're a designer and you're trying to deal with clients, you somehow have to learn how to put the foot down in some retrospect.
Yeah, you're right, because I finally started spelling out, okay, for this budget, here's what you get. You get this amount of hours, because I was giving the clients that had, a very low budget the same amount of attention as I was my highest paying clients.
Exactly.
I'm like, this isn't work. This does not make sense here.
Yeah.
And so it's knowing your value too. I've gone through some groups of other publicists that are involved, and they're like, listen, you need to charge a lot more. Do you know what you're bringing to the table? And I think that you need other people in your industry to tell you that, because we all are like, oh, well, no, you're valuable. They're paying for your expertise.
And I think a lot of people are like, oh, what do they charge? I'll just charge the same. And and it goes in line with people saying competition. I think there is competition, but I think there's always friendly competition. But when it goes to, I would never go and put it into a proposal and be like, okay, well, what are they going to charge? I want to charge what I think I deserve for my time. Yeah. And if they want to pay less or pay more and go to someone else, that's fine. I actually don't really, if I don't win a proposal, I just more look at it as well, it's their loss. And I honestly, I don't know how many times that I didn't win the proposal, but within months later, I either get a call back or someone's like, so that didn't really work out. Can we set up time to talk? Sure. Yeah. Price will go up now.
Yeah. Prices
Prices have gone up in the last 2 months. Yes. Sorry. So, as you learn and we're, trying to navigate the agency and owning the business, if you can go back and tell your younger self 5 years ago when you were starting the business one thing, what would you tell yourself?
That you're going to fail, and it's okay. You're going to fail a lot, no matter how experienced you are, and you learn from failure. So everything that I failed at, I've learned. I've never made that same mistake again, but it's okay. Don't be afraid to fail, because it's going to happen. I would say that, and then I also would say don't put so much pressure on yourself, because as we were talking about earlier, we want everything to be perfect, and it's not always going to be. And the third thing I would have told myself is that when you do hire a team, it's not going to be as you would do it. It may be 80% of what you do. It may be better, and you have to be okay with that. And so you can't micromanage, and nothing is going to be done the way you do it, but it's by hiring teams, whether that's, even if you can't have somebody in-house, if you just outsource and you have a couple of freelancers or contractors and they work on one project, that's going to free you up to do something that you're better at. Get some people to do things that you don't like or you're not good at, and then spend your time doing things that you are good at, because you're going to make a lot more money in the long run. That's
where, for me, staff-wise, I've had the biggest issue. So around year 3 or 4 when I started building a team, and I had a lot of great people through the years. Some left and moved out of the area. Some was more related to growth, and there was no growth opportunity within because we're a really small agency. But I was more so trying to find little mini-me's to help with the business, and you're not going to find another you.
No.
I have an identical twin brother, but he is nothing like me. You will not find another me. But I think where I've learned, so in 2018, I actually took a step back, and I had gotten rid. A few people left. Yeah. Everyone else had been transitioned to new positions. Luckily, I knew what I wanted to do and take a step back from having team members. So the person I let go, I actually helped find a job when I let him go and got that all situated. because it wasn't about him. It was more about me and figuring out what is truthfully was the turnover. Why was I 6 to 7 months a different person was leaving, hire a new person, the other person was leaving. So for me, it was just trying to figure out, did they leave because there was no growth? Did they leave because of the region? Did they leave because of me? Taking a step back was really great. And now realizing that there is no other me. I'm not going to find an employee who can work as quick as me, can be as perfect or perfectionist as looking through the content and the images and making sure every little thing is right. But I can hire people that are better at what they do or that are what I can do, and take things off my plate by task. So I started building up a team again. I have an assistant right now only, which doesn't sound great, but for me it's great because it's taken off all these little minute important tasks, but all these little things that just clog up my time that I should be doing something more. And now I'm now looking for another person to take off more stuff off my plate. So it's more by taking little clumps of services that I'm doing off my plate so I can do more of what I should be doing. Instead of trying to hire another me to handle everything that I'm doing, because that won't happen.
Right.
Can't happen. Last thing I really want to talk about, and I know it's been kind of like on and off, but are you still doing the hustle?
It's off for now because of time, and I was not able to really focus on how to monetize it. I was doing it complimentary, but I had a video team, so I had to pay them, and then some of it was travel, so I wasn't making any money. I was losing money on it, but I loved it. So if I can really sit down and figure out a way to do that again, that's my passion. The storytelling, like former journalist, like if I could do that and do what I do now, it would be amazing. That's just what I really want to do ultimately, is do more of the hustles, tell more people's stories, go out and do more media training and speaking, and then have more of a team to run the day-to-day.
So interviewing wise, who do you think has been your most fascinating or intriguing person you've interviewed? Because I know even though you're out of the journalist PR world, that you still do some of that in some capacity.
Probably so too. Marcia Clark, who I interviewed, she's the former prosecutor in the O.J. Simpson trial. To hear what she went through, I mean, we all have seen it in like the movies and the books, but she was just ripped apart, and the life that she had to live after the trial. So she was fascinating. And Jay Redmond, he's a former Navy SEAL, and he was ambushed in Afghanistan, or Iraq, Iraq, and he nearly died. He had multiple surgeries, he had a trach, he had a feeding tube, he had everything. And at one point, somebody came into the room and said how sorry they felt for him. So he had his wife give him a pen and paper, and he wrote out a note to go on his door, and he said, to anybody entering this room, I want nothing but positivity. I did a job I love for a country I love, for people I love. I'm going to be better than I was before. I'm going to succeed, and I'm going to help others who are in situations like this. That went viral. He went to he met President Bush at the time, and since then he's been working to help wounded warriors, wounded soldiers, men and women getting out of the military. How do they acclimate? And I asked him, I said, what's been your most difficult day? And I thought it was when he was shot, and he said it was when I failed as a leader, because he was a leader in the Navy SEALs. He said, I failed them. And like that just goes to show the type of person he is.
Yeah.
And he's so positive. He's written books. He's a family man. He travels. He speaks. But he's such a positive person. I mean, people go down really dark roads when things like that happen. But somehow he rose above that, and he's now like helping others. And so that was probably the most fascinating person I've ever met. He's amazing. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know any. That's awesome.
He's awesome. He's just amazing.
So as we wind down, is there anything that you think that I don't want to use the word tip because that's not, like, what would you tell any other marketers? Is there anything you want to say to marketers out there or publicists out there that are either starting out or looking for that foot in the door, or any advice that you'd want to give them?
2 things. Get a mentor. And they don't even have to be in the industry. It can just be somebody that's older than you, that hopefully if they have a business or, that would help, but get somebody that you can like run things off of, and get like a network of people in your industry. So like you and I talk, and we talk with Crystal and Gina and all people, and we all have different types of businesses, but we all kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And I think if you have that group of people to say, like even today I sent a photo over to Gina and I said, what do you think about this? I'm going to do a quote with this. Get somebody's outside perspective and build that will help you grow, because you can't do it on your own.
Yeah.
And even if you have a team, you can't really turn to them to ask them these really tough questions like, sometimes you may be afraid you're going to make payroll, or other times you don't know what to do with this client and you need an answer. So you call up somebody else in the industry. So form that network of people. I think that will help you tremendously.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, more specifically, probably in the last 3 to 4 years, was honing in on that network of fellow entrepreneurs, or again, calling them where you don't want to say something to an employee because they may construe it a whole different way.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I can't make payroll this week.
Right.
Or whatever. And just talking to someone who has already been there, can give you feedback. But also that outside perspective, I think, is huge, because, and maybe you're like this, but when I'm like sitting there and I'm writing something or doing something, and I go back to review it, I may just glaze over it and I don't see the grammar or the typo.
Yeah.
Giving, this is why I have the assistant to come in and double check everything, because you need that extra set of eyes.
Yeah. I mean, I even call on, so like if I'm doing a pitch, I'll call on a friend who works for a marketing firm, and she has no PR experience. She's more marketing. And I said, what do you think about this? This is the pitch. And she'll be like, oh, well, what if you do it this way? She's giving me like an outside perspective, and we're not competitors. Even if we were, she still would give me advice and I'd give her advice.
Yeah.
So it's good to just call out other people and let them help you with what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anyone that wants more information on you and your business, what's your website, social handles?
Yeah, so it's Alison May PR, so it's 1 L. And then they can find me on Instagram, it's Alison May PR, Facebook, where else? Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn. I think I'm on everything. YouTube. I don't know what else I'm missing. But yeah, so it's just Alison May PR.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. This was a lot of fun.
This is awesome.
For more information, head to agencylifepodcast.com for this and other episodes. And we will see you guys next time.